Hello, my name is Morgan Russo, and today I'm going to lead you through an activity that I have developed for a nutrition class, and it is going to be focused on teaching learners how to effectively and accurately read food labels and how to make important informed decisions at the supermarket or grocery store based on their findings. Also, I hope that this lesson will be able to connect natural, Kentucky grown agricultural commodities to what ingredients are in a lot of the foods that we consume. So we'll start off, and I will go ahead and lead you through the introductory activity, or what I'm going to call the attention getter. So the way I would start this activity is that I would show these three pictures. These are commonly ordered and eaten foods off of the fast food menu, and I would ask the learners to share aloud or to call out what these three popular food choices have in common. So we're looking at a cheeseburger, french fries, and a milkshake. So at this part of the introduction, students would probably answer a couple of things that, of course, we look at those and we think that they're unhealthy. Other answers might be that they can all be purchased at local fast food restaurants, maybe like McDonald's, Hardee's, Sonic. They also might say that they're pretty inexpensive food choices, because when we go out to eat, we know that we can order some of these foods right here in front of us at minimal cost. I will try to acknowledge everybody's answers and hopefully make some connections based on what they say. But then through this, I hope to highlight and draw attention to the biggest similarity of all these food choices. What they have in common is that they are all made and created from or with corn, ingredients that we derive from corn. I will also try to share and make a connection that corn is grown widely in Kentucky, and that is actually our number 2 ranking agricultural commodity in the state. And I'll try to also kind of highlight that. Of course, chicken is our number 1 agricultural commodity, but that corn, when we grow it, it goes into lots and lots and lots of our foods. Anything from french fries to milkshakes to even cheeseburgers. So the goal of this introductory activity is to draw attention for the learners to the fact that when we look at the entire food system in the United States, it's important to not only know where our food comes from and some of the nutrition facts, but it's also important to look at what's added to it before we actually consume it. So we'll kind of wrap that little activity up, and hopefully that was just to get the learner's attention. But what we're going to do next is we're going to build on this information, just kind of explaining how corn goes into these three very, very, very common fast food restaurant purchases. So the first thing we'll talk about is that the hamburger, of course, the meat comes from corn-fed beef, and also that the bun and probably most of the condiments used on the burger will have high fructose corn syrup added to them, and that is derived from corn. The fries are also usually made in some type of oil that has corn derivatives in it. And then even when we talk about the milk that is in the milkshake, most of the dairy cows are corn-fed or grain-fed. And even in the instance that a consumer chose a soft drink over a milkshake to go with this meal, it should be noted that a soft drink also contains the high fructose corn syrup. So hopefully that activity will just kind of bring attention to that. Even though you don't think about it, there are a lot of things that we grow locally that go into our food, and until we take the time to actually look at a food label or at the ingredients, a lot of times we don't realize that. So whatever we're putting into our bodies, we need to be familiar with what goes into it, and be aware of things that maybe aren't healthy, especially when we are purchasing or buying groceries at the supermarket for ourselves or for our families. So in order to do that, we need to become familiar with the nutrition facts labels that are included on all of our packaged and processed foods. So the next thing we're going to do for this activity is we are actually going to take a closer look at a nutrition facts label. We're going to start off and we're just going to kind of walk through each part of that, and hopefully this will be a part of the lesson where the learners will be able to draw on some of that factual knowledge where they're using terminology that they're already a little bit familiar with. But we're just going to bring attention to all of the sections that are listed on a nutrition label, because they are going to use that in their group activity here shortly. So, the serving size is listed on the top of each nutrition label for whatever is contained in that package, and it's going to tell you the amount of food that is used to measure everything else that's listed here. So, this area up here is where we have to be really careful as the consumer, because a lot of times to make products look healthier, manufacturers are going to say that whatever in this package is actually intended for 2 different servings. Or it's only talking about if you have 21 pieces of whatever this would have been labeling. So that's something that consumers should be aware of, that a lot of companies are going to make their food serving small up here at the top in order for it to look healthier than what it really is. So you always want to look at the serving size and how many servings are actually in the bag. Now below that, this is what a lot of health conscious people are focused on here, are the calories. So in this particular product, it says there's 170 calories in 1 serving. So we should know that a calorie is a unit of energy, and most people need about 2,000 calories a day in their diet. So extra calories are usually going to be stored as body fat, especially when we start consuming over 2,000 calories a day. It will also sometimes list here below calories that, or over here, excuse me, to the side, calories that come from fat. And this will tell you how many of the food's calories come directly from fat, and it's recommended that you only get about 30% of your daily calories from fat. So let's go down here to the next section here in the middle, and you can see it's kind of outlined for us. The next section is the total fat, and everything below this is going to kind of list the nutrients that are included in the food. And anytime we have anything here listed that says over 20% in this column, we can gather that it is very, very high in the nutrient that's listed over here. So our total fat, it's going to show us what fats are going to be able to be consumed and used for energy. So if we look here, we can see that this particular product has 11 grams of fat, and it breaks it down even further and lets us know that it has 1.5 grams of saturated fat and no trans fat. And we can see that both of these numbers are over here are less than 20, so we're going to assume that this might be actually high in fat, but not high over that 20% where we should really be concerned. So let's move on down, and just to highlight and note one more time that anytime we're consuming way too much fat, it's going to lead to weight gain. Let's skip on down. Cholesterol, this doesn't have any cholesterol listed in it. A lot of times things are really low in cholesterol that are packaged. Sometimes they're high, but just watch that. The next thing talks about sodium, and sodium is the same as salt essentially. Our body does need sodium, but it needs it in very, very, very small amounts. Too much can be very unhealthy. So we see over here that it's about moderate in sodium. So we've got 10%, nothing too extremely high. The next section here talks about the carbohydrates that are in this product. We need plenty of carbohydrates for energy, but however, just like the extra fat up here, when we consume too many, that can kind of load up as extra weight or extra fat on our body. So we have to kind of watch this. This product essentially is fairly lower in carbohydrates, so it would be an okay choice in moderation. The next thing listed here, we've got fiber. It doesn't have a whole lot of fiber in it, but we do see that it's actually really low in sugar. Simple sugars like processed sugar are added to a lot of snacks and candies, cereals, and they should be eaten in very, very small amounts. We also know that these sugars contain a lot of calories. So if this product had 200 or 300 calories, it would be more than likely that the sugar here would be really, really high. Let's also look here at the protein that's in this product. We know that protein is very important to our body, especially our muscles, and especially when we're talking about energy. So 10 to 20% of our daily calories should actually come from the protein that we're consuming. So just be mindful of that. So hopefully this section going through the nutrition label here will kind of just bring back to the forefront of the students or the learners base knowledge that they have if they are taking part in a nutrition class. We'll look down here at the bottom real quick and we'll just touch on that these are where the vitamins and minerals are listed. These are usually extra things that our body can use as a benefit. Now, we will see that in a lot of products, underneath the nutrition facts, I'm going to pull in a different label here just so we can see, or out to the side, we will see the ingredients list. And let me get it here where you can see it better. We need to know that in the ingredients list, the biggest ingredients or what are most common in this product are always going to be listed first. So beware of any foods that start out with sugar, which we can see here, milk chocolate starts out with sugar. So that's one of the most common ingredients in this product. Any foods that are starting out with sugars like corn syrup, sucrose, or lots of fats and oils, more than likely they're not going to be a good food choice, because that means the most common ingredient or most prevalent ingredient in that food is some type of sugar or some type of fat, and we know most of the time those are not healthy foods for us. The shorter the list, usually the better. But the less natural ingredients you see listed, if you see big long scientific words here, more likely that means there are things added to this food that deviate away from that food in their most natural state or with just natural healthy ingredients. So be aware of that. So the next thing we're going to do as part of this lesson, once we have kind of gotten this basic knowledge of what is included on our food labels, we are going to look back at the foods that we talked about that have corn-derived ingredients. And we are going to talk about and build on that ingredients list by looking at a list of corn-derived ingredients that are commonly listed under the ingredients section of any food product. So you can see here, and I'll try to highlight to the students, that this is a very, very long list. Some of these words we can't even say, much less spell or pronounce correctly, and so it's hard for us to recognize that all of these come from corn. All of these have the main component of corn in them. Now, a lot of the popular ones, corn oil, cornstarch, corn syrup, we're going to be able to see that and recognize it on a label. However, some of the additional ones that we're not familiar with, like maltodextrin, maybe alpha tocopherol, monosodium glutamate, we're not going to be familiar with in our common everyday language. We're not going to be able to pick up on that terminology that these ingredients, are derived from corn. However, a lot of these are very, very common and very popular. So that's going to lead us into our next activity, which we are going to do as a group. We are going to use the information that we have learned about corn-derived ingredients and also what we have learned about reading nutrition labels in order to decide which two of these sweet treats that essentially are yummy, but we know could possibly not be as healthy for us. So we have M&Ms. We also have a thing of instant pudding. So both of these could serve as a way for us to kind of satisfy that sweet tooth, but we are going to try to figure out as a group which one is the healthiest. So the first thing that I'm going to have the students do is they're each going to get a label from an M&M's package. They are also going to get a label from a pack of pudding. And with that, they are going to get a worksheet to complete as a group. And on this worksheet, they are going to go through the M&M's candy label, and they are going to check off each corn-derived ingredient that they find. They're going to do the same for the instant pudding over on this column, and they are going to decide and look at the different corn-derived ingredients in both of these products. So essentially what that would look like, once the group has filled it out, we can see out of all the ingredients, really these two do not have that many. Each of them have 4, so that's pretty common. But we can see that some of these, the xanthan gum, the maltodextrin, the dextrose, a lot of those we wouldn't even have recognized beforehand that they were derived from corn. So we're going to do that in the group, and then we are going to proceed to not only use this information that they find through the activity, looking at the labels, they're also going to have to use these labels to decide which of these is the healthier food option. So what that's going to entail, it is going to require them to look down through the serving size. We can see that for this package of M&Ms, this is only talking to us about 2 tablespoons of M&Ms. So that is not really our whole package. They are also going to have to look at the calories, the fat, the sodium. They're going to have to look at the percent daily values and the ingredients list to decide if the M&Ms is going to be healthier than the instant pudding. So we can also see here that our serving sizes are limited, but I can tell you already, and one talking point that I hope each group will bring up is that the fat content, the cholesterol, the carbohydrates are all very, very low, or they're almost non-existent. There also is not any sugar. So after they kind of have a moment to look at that and also look over here at the ingredients list, I'm going to ask each group to select a speaker and to argue which option they would choose based on those nutrition facts and the corn-derived ingredients in each one. So either one, they could decide. They could decide that they would rather have the M&Ms, even though the nutrition facts might not be as healthy as the pudding, but they might justify that in their argument by saying this might be more satisfying to them, and this might hold them over a little bit longer than the pudding, or vice versa. So I'm going to try to get them to use that terminology that we talked about when we're talking about nutrients and cholesterol, sodium, carbs, protein, and calories. Once they are trying to defend what their group has decided on would be the healthier choice. If you are the facilitator for this activity, you could use any type of labels for this. You could also give every group 2 different products. And that way, when it comes time to share aloud, each group can talk about something different, and the other groups are able to pull from what they said. This is a great time to incorporate maybe one group have sweets, one group have maybe a salty snack, another group have maybe, you could do a meal where you're using maybe something like a lean cuisine or frozen meal, and each group have something different and share at the end which option is healthier. So lots of different directions you can take this in. It would, to effectively carry it out and to use the corn-derived ingredients and to walk through the nutrition label, you would actually need to use some type of overhead projector or some type of PowerPoint presentation. You could also project your pictures up onto your presentation screen. And all in all, this would probably take about 45 to 50 minutes if you stayed on track. So hopefully this has been an activity that is helping you to learn more about nutrition facts and will help you be able to make a more educated decision when you are at the supermarket.